The Help. Today, this is what we are talking about, The Help. It is a book and it's also been made into a movie, but it goes into the main character, or the main character, Skeeter, and her life dealing with realizing there's an imbalance and seeing what that entails for specifically women of color working for her friends and family members, things like that, white women. And then it also goes into the daily struggles of the colored women working for these white women and raising their kids, things like that. This is such a good book. It's such a great read. You're able to really get sucked in and just empathize with the characters. Very descriptive when it's talking about each character and what they've gone through. And it's not too overly done, so you're not getting just a bunch of jargon. And the way it balances out, because it kind of has three main characters, Minnie, Aibileen, and Skeeter, but the way it balances out each of their own separate stories and then ties them together is just, it's perfect. Now, comparing this to the book, I will say there are a few differences, like character-wise. Skeeter in the movie, she's got red hair because it's Emma Stone. In the book, she's blonde hair, and it's not necessarily cute curly, it's frizz. And then Hilly, she's a little, like, depicted just slightly different, not a ton. And then Elizabeth. Elizabeth is described as just stick thin, very thin hair, not the prettiest face, whereas in the movie, very pretty actress who plays her. But, you know, it's really only certain differences like that. And overall, I think the movie did a good job translating the book into a movie. It took a lot of the dialogue, and I feel like it stuck pretty true to the story. It was slightly different, like Constantine, her daughter, it's very different in the book than it is the movie. I get why they did what they did in the movie, because that would have been a lot to try to put in. The book, it's a little different, but nothing bad about the change. I will say Hilly is just as awful in the book and the movie. She's a little worse in the book, and I freaking hate her. But other than the few changes, the movie is so good. I feel like the actresses that they got and actors, all amazing. Read the book. Skeeter's relationship with Stuart, there's a little more drama with it and a little more back and forth, which is fun. It adds to her personal development. Reading the book, I hated Elizabeth. She was so awful to her daughter, and I felt so bad for Mae Mobley. Like, as you read it, I wanted to cry every freaking time that they had an interaction, and it goes more into that dynamic and like how just messed up it is in the book. In the movie, it touches on it, but not nearly as much as the book goes into detail with that. I think the book was amazing. It did such a good job of bringing all of these people's lives together, and I loved the way that it expressed each character and showed their strengths, their faults, their flaws, and like that growth or that change that you want. Like Minnie, she has her own growth through at the end of the story, and it's perfect for her. And Skeeter, actually, she really shows a lot of growth and ends up helping Aibileen to further her growth, which is great. I'm trying not to spoil stuff. But The Help was so good. It is a thick book, but it's so worth the read. And I really appreciated just how thought out each story was for the characters. And it seems like the author really wanted to make sure she stayed as close to what she deemed the truth. Some of it is kind of based on her own personal life, and you get to read a little snippet of that and see that Constantine was kind of based off of her maid when she was growing up, which is very, like, that's nice to have that personal touch. And I think she did a really good job how some maids or some help would have dealt with certain situations and what situations possibly would have come up or could have come up. I feel like overall it was done very well, and I feel that the author really wanted to convey a story that would end up being wholesome, and it's just a story that you root for all of the main characters and they get their happy ending. It may not be exactly what you wanted, but overall, great story. I loved the ending. And I would 100% recommend reading this. I also would recommend the movie. I'd probably read the book first. Most cases, I would say read the book first. And then if you like the book, you can see. It's hard. Because sometimes it's nice to watch the movie and then go more into depth with it. I would say probably read the book first, but I don't think, like, I watched the movie first and I don't think it took away anything from the book. And it was kind of fun to already have a set understanding of the story and then to go more in detail with it. So I love this book. I think everyone should read it. I think it was a great read. I can see why it's a New York Times bestseller.